we're kind of winding up our event and this event, and I'm really excited to introduce the guests that I have here because I'm kind of new to this, like the whole raw food world. It's only been a couple years that I've been involved, and I really started to meet and get to know a lot of the people. And the person who's going to be speaking today, John Kohler, is one of those people that I had heard about through Naomi Shannon. And she said, yeah, John and I go way back, we're friends, and you really got to meet him. And so we met. I think we met at the Expo West was the first time we met. And so we started talking and we started to get to know each other. And then recently we've been in Santa Rosa, so we had a chance to hang out with him. But little do people know that John Kohler has committed a lot of his life to spreading information for free in terms of the raw food lifestyle. And he's got a site called living-foods.com, and it literally is one of the highest traffic sites in raw food. And a lot of people don't even know that John's the guy behind it. And so he's been dedicated to this for a very long time, and he has some really strong opinions about what is healthy and what is not, and a lot of it is very all of it's very well researched. And so, some of the things that I hear from John, I truly trust what he's saying, and I really believe that it comes straight from his heart because he does want to help people. He just put on an incredible event up in Santa Rosa, and there was 400 people that came. 400 people that came, and he did it from straight from his heart to really put on an event that really could get some information out to people. And so today, he's going to be sharing some of that information with you. The talk is just because it's raw doesn't mean it's healthy. And the people, since you guys are here, you're going to get a great treat because this is the real information that we really need to hear. Because John's going to kind of bust through a lot of the hype, and he's going to really kind of show you some of the real ways to help succeed. Because John's been a raw fooder for a very, very long time. So why don't we give a warm round of applause for my friend John Kohler.
Thanks, Jordan. Really good. So I got into raw foods because I had to. Because I almost lost my life, actually, when I was in my 20s. And I had spinal meningitis. And that was basically caused, what the doctor said, by a basically complement immune deficiency. So it's basically the doctors blamed me getting spinal meningitis on a basically depressed and weak immune system. And that was like really big news to me at the time because I thought I ate really well. I didn't eat red meat. I was a pretty good vegetarian who ate chicken and fish sometimes, and read my ingredient label, shopped at health food stores. But I still got sick and it just wasn't good enough. I guess it could have been some foresight, or looking back, or hindsight, actually looking back on my life. Like when I was in grade school, I'd have, allergies, asthma, and, dry skin conditions. And for people that know, those are like, basically autoimmune type diseases, like very, low scale. So that just kind of grew. And then I guess when I was older, maybe not doing or eating the right things caused me to have the spinal meningitis or caused my immune system to be weak to basically get the spinal meningitis. So when I was in the hospital with the spinal meningitis, I remember being admitted in Kaiser and Santa Rosa, actually, and the doctors tell me that I might not make it out of there alive. And that's not a fun place to be, definitely when you're in your 20s, or at any age. I was thinking, in my 20s, I'm thinking, man, this shouldn't happen to me until I'm, like, way older. And I'm like, here I am in my 20s, like, maybe not even going to make it out of the hospital. And that was, like, not a good place to be in at that point in my life. And the doctor said that they couldn't really do anything for me, and that if I made it through, I'd make it through, and if I didn't, I didn't, because it just was, they couldn't really do anything at that point. It was, like, up to higher powers, in my opinion. So at that point, I really had a change of my mindset. So up until that point, like, I wanted the standard American dream, 2.2 kids, a dog, and, a house, and a 1969 Corvette convertible with T-tops, Corvette with T-tops, not a convertible. And it just never really, well, that didn't happen yet, but I was in the hospital, so I couldn't even do anything. But then, so, basically I was valuing what society tells us to value is money. But at that point when I was in the hospital, I was thinking to myself, you know what? Even if I had all the money right now sitting in the bank, I don't have, it couldn't do me anything. I couldn't write a check to the doctor, Mr. Doctor, $1 million, do not cash unless I walk out of here. It wouldn't matter. He was doing the best he could, my Kaiser Permanente healthcare program or whatever. So, it wasn't up to him. So at that point I really had a mind shift and a values change sitting in the hospital because I had a lot of time to think about things lying on my back because I had a spinal tap. And how many people in here ever had a spinal tap? Hurts really, 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 really bad. You don't want one unless you absolutely need it. But I was like passed out when I took it, so. But afterwards, it just still really hurt. So I had a lot of time to think about things, and I basically thought like one thing was my values shifted. and if I didn't value money as highly as we're meant to, or we're taught, or almost like, I don't know, taught, not even being taught it necessarily, but just by seeing things on TV and advertising that this is what we're supposed to do in our life, to just, I don't know, work your life away and make a lot of money. So at that point, I really started valuing my health, but I really didn't know where to go, or if I was going to make it out alive. Luckily, I made it out alive, and the doctor said upon leaving is that, I had complement immune deficiency, which means I had a chronically weakened immune system, and that I had fought off this bout of meningitis, but I could get a reoccurrence, not like a reoccurrence in cancer where maybe it's still inside or something, but that my immune system was more susceptible because, he told me that people are carriers of meningitis, like you carry the cold, but not everybody gets it, basically because your immune system fights it off. Because my immune system was chronically depressed, I'd be more susceptible to getting that or any other kind of infection in the future, and I could be back at the same place. So at that point, I really knew I needed to do something. I had no idea what, and basically I saw it. A little bit later on, I saw an infomercial, maybe months later, I saw an infomercial on TV with Jay Quarters, the juice man. How many people have seen Jay Quarters, the juice man's infomercial? Right, a couple people. So in his infomercial, he's talking about juicing and eating, fresh foods and how it will build your immune system. And those are the only words I need to hear out of that whole infomercial, and I instantly got on the phone and ordered a juicer from him. And I started juicing, and I felt healthier, and then I got a book called Cleanse and Purify Thyself by Dr. Richard Anderson, which talks about colon cleansing. So I cleansed my colon, and then, for the first time in my life, my skin condition, because I had eczema as a child, and I get teased, I had eczema and ichthyosis, so those are both dry skin conditions. And the doctors told me that I would grow out of it when I was 13, my pediatric doctor, Dr. Messina. And so because I get teased as a child with the eczema, because my skin was dry, it looked like a snake skin, or, kids would call me snake skin, reptile, and all this other stuff. So it's really bad when you're a kid, kids tease you because you're different. And I didn't have anything to do with my dry skin. I mean, little did I know my diet was highly related to that. And I had a lot of allergies as a child anyways, milk, grass, pollen, dogs, cats. We can have pets when I was a kid. And asthma. But anyway, so back to the story. So for the first time in my life, the doctor said I would grow out of it at 13, so every birthday I'd wait, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I woke up on my 13th birthday and my skin was the same. So I didn't grow out of it, so I was like getting dismayed at the whole medical profession from an early age. But the only thing that ever cleared my skin up was actually after I started juicing and did this cleanse. And I remember just looking at my skin when I was taking a shower at this house I was renting in Runner Park, and I just started crying because my skin was totally 100% cleared up like it had never been before. And it meant so much to me because the doctors couldn't do that with, prescriptions or anything else. And then to that point, I think I realized that, this is what I need to do for the rest of my life. And this is how I need to live if I want to live and stay alive. The other thing that happened to me in the hospital too, I wanted to live more in service. Because if I made it through, I made a commitment to higher powers when I was praying in the hospital that if I made it out of there, I would not just be, try my best not to be motivated towards money, but, try to help others. And so that's one of the reasons for my website and why I come around to events and do events like this and whatnot. So the reason why I came up with the talk, just because it's raw doesn't mean it's healthy, is actually out of need. So I was actually at a health retreat in Malala, Oregon. It's actually happening next week. It's called a Living in Raw Spirit Retreat. And Kevin, who was just in here, he's going to be there, and some of the other speakers that are here. And it's a 4-day retreat up in Camp Adams. It's a really nice place. They serve all the food. It's all included, and you stay in like rustic cabins. It's really great. I can't wait to go up there. But one night, so all the food's included. So one of the dinners we went to, one night there's a chef from out of town who's, they have chefs coming to prepare the dinners for everybody. And there's a chef that made the meal. It's like a 3-course meal. They give, an appetizer, an entree, and then a dessert. So the appetizer was some kind of soup, and I forget the exact kind of soup, but so the soup came out, and I started eating it, and I ate the whole soup, and it was fine, but then after this, I ate the soup, I got a headache. And then I saw somebody else, like at another table, like get up and leave the room. And then somebody else at my table commented and say, I don't feel so good after eating this soup. And so I'm like, okay, this shouldn't be happening at a raw event, because, raw food's supposed to be healthy for me, or healthy for everybody, right? I mean, that's what we're all led to believe, that raw is good for us, and you should only eat it if it's raw. But what happened was I got up, because I wasn't feeling good, and I'm pretty sensitive because I eat, pretty cleanly. And what happened was I found out that there was an ingredient in the soup that was probably causing this situation. And the ingredient was Bragg's liquid aminos. Many people know about Bragg's, so if you've been into raw foods for long enough, there's a big internet controversy, way back when about Bragg's that it contains naturally occurring MSG in the fermentation process. It's just one of the things that are created when it's made, and you can't really take that out. So now I'm at a raw food retreat, and I thought I'm eating healthy, and now I'm eating MSG, and it gives me a headache, and that's one of the symptoms of MSG. It'll give you a headache, and whatever else it does, it's not good for you, So I'm like, this isn't right. And I talked to the chef about it. I'm like, well, he didn't know because he's new into raw foods, and he read raw food recipe books, and in there it says, you could use Bragg's, or in there it says you could use whatever the ingredient is, and there's a lot of these ingredients that have kind of snuck in over time, and because one, it's my idea that we all learn by modeling. So we learn how to walk because we've seen our parents walk. We learn how to ride a bike because, we got to get and try the bike, but we see people do it. We broke the 3-minute mile because we saw somebody else do it. Before that, nobody else could do it. We learn by modeling. So we model like recipe books. Okay, so this person wrote a raw recipe book. Oh, they use Bragg's. Oh, so the next person that comes along sees that they used it, then they use it too. And then it just goes down the line. And now we have all these books with maybe like not the best information or not the best ingredients that we should be using. So then at the festival or at the retreat I was at, I really like the retreat. On the last day, they actually have a section for anybody who attends the retreat to put on a talk or or whatever for 1 hour. They could maybe you do dance, you could have a talk for that hour of dancing, or I into raw foods a lot, so I do a talk about raw foods and a topic that I didn't cover in my other 2 talks. So I stayed up that night in my cabin. I couldn't sleep because I was like really on my mind, like, how can I really teach people how to determine for themselves if something's raw and healthy or not? Because I know, I've done the research and I've been around long enough to know the different ingredients that aren't so good that you shouldn't be eating, but how can I just teach the average person without? Because I've done research on agave and cacao, and I don't have them with me, but over at my booth I have a information sheet about agave and cacao with, scientific research that I quote on there that I did research on, and I could specifically say why it's not so good for us. But I don't expect everybody to go in and go to PubMed online and search these things and figure it all out for themselves. I'm into it because my health, I almost lost my life, so I want to do it the right way and teach people the best way to do it and not have to have them go through the challenges that I went through when I was, first starting out. So that's the basis of this talk, and it's really easy. The first thing is that there are no raw food labeling laws. So we can remember back, 20 years ago when there was no organic labeling laws, right? You could write the word organic on anything, and hopefully they're growing it organically and not using, pesticides and things like that. And you could get away with it because there's no specific law regarding that. Now they passed the organic law, and there's approved items and unapproved items you're supposed to use, and to at least say organic, you're supposed to abide by the rules and pay a lot of money to get certified and all this kind of junk. But with raw foods, there's no labeling law. So you could put raw organic almonds, or raw almonds. Forget the organic part. Raw almonds, and they could be totally roasted, and that's totally legal. It's not. It's unethical and not moral and not honest, but it's legal. You can't get sued or anything because there's no legal definition of raw. And to industry, in the food processing industry, raw means like unroasted. So a really good example that most people may know is raw cashews that you buy at the health food store. They've been heat processed hotter than 118 degrees, so they're not really raw. But then there's people that came out with really raw cashews. So are those really raw? That's a whole other subject I won't get into. But so there are no raw labeling laws. So how are you to determine, if something's really raw, whether it says it or not? And that's why I came up with this talk. And it took me a while staying up all night in my cabin, scribbling on scratch paper. So, and this is audience participation, because I don't want to just be up here lecturing, and I think it's much more important for me to teach you, how to determine for yourselves if things are raw, and, hear from you guys instead of me just spouting it out, because, I want to teach people to think, because in our society, it's my belief that people are taught to follow and not think for themselves. So, we're going to write up on this board, what does raw mean? And so we're going to come up collectively as an audience with some criteria that raw means to us. Okay, so I'll start off to make it easy. So raw means to me it's not heated above blank. Fill in the blank. We get conflicting numbers, but I would say 118 degrees. is what they say is where enzymes start to degrade. Some people say 105, some people say 120, and it's definitely a time and temperature thing, but we're just going to put 118. So it is not heated above 118. Okay, so does anybody else have a criteria that raw means to them?
It's fresh.
It's fresh. Okay, so fresh. Let's see, what would be another way to say that? How about it has life force or vibrancy? Would that be a good, would everybody pretty much agree with has life force or vibrancy?
Like if you were to sprout it, it would become alive. Because raw doesn't mean it's living food yet.
Right.
It just has the potential, but that it has the potential to be a living food. Is that what you were looking about? Because you could have nuts and they are not necessarily fresh, but there's
Well, they could be because you could pick them off the tree and they'll be fresh.
I mean, raw means something fresh. I mean, you don't want produce that's been sitting around too long. It's almost rotten. You don't want, you know, I mean, anything you eat, you want it to be fresh, highest quality food you can get. It's going to be raw. So, I mean, fresh vibrancy, I think, is the best way to you want to say, or life force.
Right, okay. Or potential life force.
Well,
How's
like
that?
seeds, the sprouting seeds, they're not raw, but they're not cooked. But if you put them in water, they will sprout. That's
Well, they are raw, but they're not necessarily living at that time.
right.
But yes, they can.
So why don't we have life force or potential life force? Perfect. Has life force or potential life force. Okay, anybody else?
Must it be organic?
Organic. Well, see, that's a different criteria. That's I wouldn't say definitely to be raw. I don't think it has to be organic. It should be. And I mean, I eat 90% organic, but I don't think that should necessarily be a criteria. What if you live in the middle of Kansas and there's no organic? Can you not be raw then? Because you know they only have conventional produce. I mean, you can still eat conventional produce. It's just not the best, or nor would I really advocate it unless it's all you have. Right. But we're trying to define raw. What does raw mean? So it would mean
Not processed.
not processed. Excellent, thank you. Would everybody agree with not processed?
Yeah.
Well,
What is processed?
dehydrated, you know,
What is that processing? That's what I was thinking.
Sure.
And then, it is in a way.
Okay, so how about, is it,
What did you say? I didn't know.
Is dehydration processing?
Yeah, it is.
So is that considered raw if it's dehydrated under 118?
I consider
It's
raw.
still raw.
well, we
but
still
it's
have it not
So-
heated above 118 degrees.
So
So
you could have
process
something raw.
minimally.
Recognizable as the
Food.
original food.
Not chemically processed?
Not chemically processed.
Process.
Not because
So hard.
chemistry,
Right.
I guess I mean additives. Like additives are normally put into the processing that we're talking about. I think.
Additive free. I mean, usually I put up here like, okay, about for this group, unprocessed or very minimally processed.
Okay,
Okay, how about that?
minimal process.
Okay.
You can pick it from a tree or it grows in the ground.
Perfect. Occurs naturally in nature. How's that? Would everybody agree with that? That's an excellent one. Thank you. Occurs in nature.
That's the most important. Because
it's a whole food, it's a fraction.
Whole food. That kind of goes along with the process. Would everybody agree? Whole food? All right, great. Anybody else? We're doing really good. I could interject one here. How's that?
Yeah.
What goes with whole food is not refined.
Yeah.
Not refined. So we could do whole food / not refined.
Yeah.
A fraction.
Okay, so let's see. One I'd like to add is how about is it water rich? So for me, I mean we're all made of 70 to 75% water, and I think in my opinion of raw foods, it's something that's water rich because if we're not eating things that are water rich, it's going to dehydrate us, right? But everybody agree with is it water rich?
Well, so you want to cut out the dehydrated food.
Then process.
Well, I mean, on the same token, I mean, dehydrated food is processed, so, you know.
That's why we said minimal processing. if
Right.
you recall.
So why don't we do a vote by show of hands? Who would agree with, it should be water rich? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. As long as it contains water. I mean, like a nut or seed wouldn't be water rich unless you pick it fresh and you eat it. Like my brother has an almond tree in Las Vegas, and even in Las Vegas where it's so hot, if you pick an almond off this tree, when you eat it instantly, it's wet inside. And that to me would be, raw food. Because I mean, once again, it's like we're made of 72% water, 70 to 75, depending on the number. And if we're not eating things that are water rich, it's dehydrating us and it's taking our water from us. So I'm going to put it up there.
Yeah. Make a decision.
Yeah, we'll make a decision and move on, and then, it's water rich. And you'll see where I'm going with this.
Well, that means the dehydrated foods are not really raw foods.
Well, you're gonna see in a second. We're just getting some criteria here. So, any last ones that anybody has that they want to add?
Does ripeness have anything to do with raw?
I wouldn't necessarily say that's. I mean, I would agree with that. You should eat all your food right.
It's kind of like organic.
It's kind of like organic, right? In the back,
I would say like free from animal products.
free from animal products.
Totally vegan and sustainable.
Totally vegan and sustainable. That's a good question. I haven't had that one before. What does everybody think? Free of animal products, totally vegan. That's kind of like the organic thing. Once again, it's more of a criteria of or a standard. And I agree. I mean, there's raw meat eaters. I don't advocate that by any means, or raw dairy. I don't advocate that either.
Some people use honey.
But some people use honey.
Honey's quite standard, even if you're raw and don't use dairy products or meat.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so that's a little bit questionable. But the last one I have that I'd like to add, and we'll vote on this, is that I think raw means to me it should be health building or health promoting. It shouldn't take away from your health. Would everybody agree with that? Because hopefully everybody's into raw because they want to be healthier, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, is it health building? All right, so we came up with a criteria that most people agree with most of the things on here, not everybody, but that's really good. And so now, since we defined and we made the criteria, what we're going to do next is we're going to put foods up against this criteria, and we're going to see how it works. So for example, today I had 4 meals, and each of those meals were melons. The first one's cantaloupe, and I've had honeydews for 3 more meals today. So let's put up the honeydew melon that I just ate for my last meal 10 minutes before this talk up to their criteria. So this honeydew melon's organic, and it was purchased from Harvest Market down the street. And they're really good. They're really ripe, too, actually. So they're 79 cents on sale. So if you're going out of town that way, you definitely want to stop. So is the honeydew melon that I ate just now, 10 minutes ago, not heated above 118 degrees?
Yes.
Is it have life force or potential life force?
yes.
Is it unprocessed or minimally processed?
Yes.
Does it occur in nature?
Yes.
Is it a whole food?
Yes.
Is it water rich?
Yes.
Is it health building?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we can easily see the melon I ate is easily all yeses. So why don't we put up, you said broccoli earlier.
And I just said I don't know because I finished with Brian Hunt's lecture where he said there should be absolutely no fruit in your diet if you're dealing with any kind of disease. 0 fruit.
Okay, well, that's a different subject. We're talking about, is it raw? I mean, he's on a little living program. Okay, so you can say, I don't want to get into that. That's a topic for the panel when Brian and Doug are all in there. This is a little bit separate. I guess some people would maybe argue that melons, because they're high in sugar, are not health building, but I would, maybe say, well, Snickers bars are probably, it's all gradients, and I'm actually later in my talk about some time we're going to go on the gradients and shades of good, better, best. It's not always black and white. If the options are eating a melon versus eating some cookies or some McDonald's sundae, I mean obviously the melon's better. But it's often when you have some chronic situation that you're healing, maybe it might be better to drink a kale juice instead of eat the melon. But that's that's more specific versus we're just trying to get a general understanding of the term raw. So why don't we put broccoli up to this? I'm actually growing some broccoli. They're not sprouting yet in my front yard. So if I go out to my front yard and pick the broccoli out of my garden and chew on it and eat it, and actually the leaves are actually really good too. You don't need to wait for the flower. The broccoli from John's garden, is it not heated above 118 degrees?
Not in center, is it?
Not in center. Yeah, is it have life force or potential life force? Is it unprocessed or minimally processed? Does it occur in nature? Is it a whole food? Is it water rich? Is it health building? Yes. So easily you can see we tried a fruit to this, and we tried a vegetable to this, and it's all easily yeses. So now, why don't somebody throw out here another food that they like to put up to this criteria that they're wondering about? Cashews. Excellent. So are we talking the really raw cashews that you could buy maybe from some of the vendors outside, or the ones from the health food store?
Health food store cashews.
Okay, so health food store cashews that most people are using, based on my information, are heat processed hotter than 118 degrees. Okay,
And some
so
people say that, well, because that was one big confusion. Some people say, that it happens so quickly that maybe it doesn't affect it.
okay, sure.
What do you think?
Well, let's run it through our criteria here.
Okay.
So, are the cashews, the raw cashews from the bulk section in the health food store, not heated above 118 degrees?
They are.
No,
No.
no. I'd say no. I guess we could look into it further, but I'd say
You are
no.
saying they are below 118?
No.
I'm saying they're heated.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer, because before it was like, before the answer was all yeses. Now this is a
Yeah,
no.
right, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yes. Does the raw cashew have life force or potential life force?
Then you can't sprout them.
You can't sprout them, so I'd say no.
No.
Is it unprocessed or minimally processed?
Well, I would
It's
say
heated pretty
processed
hot, so
because-
it's pretty processed.
And there's a
Processed.
toxin, they heat it too because there's a toxin.
Oh, yes.
on the-
I agree. And so does it occur in nature? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a whole food?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You'd have to eat the whole cashew apple with the seed or the cashew nut to make it a whole food, right? Because we're just eating a part?
But then, no, that's a whole.
No? Okay. So it's still, okay,
Just
so.
the packaging.
I mean, when you eat coconut, do you have to eat the...
No.
No.
So, okay, so it's a whole food. Just trying to get it right at you. So, is it water rich?
No.
No. Is it health building?
Debatable.
Debatable. I'd say probably not, personally. That's my opinion. So I don't know for sure, but I'd say probably not. And here's some of my reasoning is, I was in Costa Rica, they have cashew apple trees, which makes the cashew fruit. And outside of the bed and breakfast I was staying at, there's all these cashew apples on the tree. And basically, if you look down on the ground, you see all the cashew apples were gone, but then you'd see the nuts, like still in the husk thing it's in. And like not even the animals, the monkeys or anything was eating them. So one of the things I like to do is look towards nature for answers, right? So monkeys and other animals aren't eating the cashew nuts. Why are we eating them? Just because we could heat process them. The other thing is, if you try to like get into it, there's some toxic chemicals on the nut. When you try to get into it, it like burn your fingers by the chemicals. So if we're not able to get into them with our hands and everything naturally, why should we, in my opinion, be eating them? And the other thing from my evidence is that when I eat the cashews and digest them, they don't digest that well for me, and I don't usually feel that good. If I eat the same quantity of macadamia nuts, I feel fine.
It feels more lumpy.
Right, yeah, it feels lumpy. It doesn't like move through us because our body's maybe not used to eating it, because in nature we wouldn't eat it. But let's get back to the criteria. Let's run something else through the criteria. Oh, perfect. Okay, nori wrapped, power wraps, vegan curry, and they're labeled USDA organic. Did they say wrong there? Okay, so why don't we put these wraps up to the criteria? Is it not heated above 118 degrees?
You don't know.
We hope so. But we don't know is the honest answer. We don't know. Does it have life force or potential life force?
Can't sprout it.
Can't sprout it. I'd probably say, probably not. Some maybe might argue, say, well, if it wasn't heated, then it maybe has some life force. If we took a trillion photograph of it, maybe.
Well, and
Maybe
it's not
not.
necessarily that everything can be sprouted. Like seaweed can't be sprouted, and it has life force in it.
I see. Yeah, so
Could have some.
the answer is, on the first one, maybe, maybe not. The next one is maybe, maybe not. Is it unprocessed or minimally processed?
It's processed.
It's pretty highly processed, so. Does it occur in nature? No, they don't have these trees that grow these things. I wish they did. Is it a whole food and not refined? It's not whole. There's parts of it that are whole. The nori's kind of whole, maybe. Is it water rich?
Absolutely not.
No. Is it health building?
We don't know.
That's,
Well, we hope so. I mean, I guess it has.
hope if it's raw.
We hope if it's raw and it has a couple of good ingredients in there. I mean, the ingredients, well, it has an agave nectar and
Yeah.
other things in there. So we hope it is, but it's maybe not as health building as eating some whole fruits and vegetables. Maybe more health building than a cheeseburger from McDonald's, right? So it's all great. It's all gradient. So you could see that, depending on the food you put through this, you'll get either resounding yeses, resounding nos, or how about McDonald's cheeseburger? I mean, well, I don't need to put that through here. I mean, that'll be called no.
And what about salmon?
A what?
Salmon.
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 Okay, so this is for raw vegan in here. We're not doing animal products
It's
in here.
extremely unsustainable,
blackstrap
like destroying our fisheries.
Blackstrap molasses. Excellent, thank you. So is blackstrap molasses not heated above 118 degrees?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? That's right.
I don't really know about blackstrap molasses, but I would say it's probably heated above 118
Yeah.
degrees.
It is. Boiling.
Because I'll tell you, a lot of those.
It's processed.
It's processed, but a lot of the people that make products to sell you, they want to kill the enzymes, because if the enzymes were still in there, the product would continue to ferment, like kimchi or something, or sauerkraut. But a lot of the products, they have to stop the enzymatic activity so that it stays shelf stable. I mean, another one is on that we could have put on here is, does it spoil, right? If it spoils, right, we want to eat things that don't spoil, because if it has shelf life, it can be around for hundreds of years and never go bad. But anyway, so blackstrap molasses, is it not heated above 118 degrees?
Definitely.
Probably.
It's heated, so the answer would be no. Does it have life force or potential life force?
No.
I'd say no. Is it unprocessed or minimally processed?
It's processed.
It's processed, yeah. Does it occur in nature?
Not in that form.
No blackstrap molasses trees. Is it a whole food, not refined? Nope. Is it water rich? Nope. Is it health building? That may be, there may be some minerals or something in there. I don't really know. I haven't researched that particular item, so that might be questionable.
High in iron.
High in iron. But I would say, for iron, maybe leafy greens would be another better alternative in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you could see that was like no's, and maybe we had a questionable, but so basically what I'd like to say is that, with this criteria, you could go to any health food store, and I mean, you don't have to necessarily carry on this board with you. You could take it in your notes and, put this criteria up to any food, whether it's in the produce section or in a package that says raw or whatever. And you'll see that, if it's all yeses, it's probably something good for you. If it's all no's, it's probably something not good for you. If it's something with a couple of yeses, a couple no's, a couple maybes, maybe you want to eat it sometimes. Yes.
Well, I think, it sounds like we know what your thoughts are, but why are you anti-agave and cacao? Because there's a lot of back and forth on what people think about that.
Maybe we can run through it.
Sure, yeah. Why don't we run it through with this? That'll make it really easy. So, raw agave that's labeled raw, or how about the really raw agave? So, is the really raw agave not heated above 118 degrees?
So they said.
We hope so.
Okay.
Maybe, maybe not.
Okay.
Does it have a life force or potential life force? I'd say no. Is it unprocessed or minimally processed? No.
No.
Does it occur in nature?
No.
No, agave, juice plants. Is it a whole food, not refined? It's highly refined. Is it water rich? It's been dehydrated or cooked.
Well, there's still a lot of water in it.
Well, it's somewhat liquid, but it's really concentrated, It's not necessarily water. If it's water, I don't know, I think it would go bad quicker. And is it health building? I mean, maybe if you look at that glycemic level, which is only one part of the food's nutrient spectrum, it might be low glycemic, but somebody like Gabriel Cousin would say it's not really it's not really low glycemic as they say, it's really high glycemic. So, and I have diabetic friends that have actually eaten agave and they see their blood sugar go up. So that might answer the question pretty easily. I mean, if you want to go to my table, I have specific articles. Basically, the problem with agave specifically is there's a really high fructose content of agave. So we know that high fructose corn syrup is not good for us, but agave has actually a higher level of isolated fructose than high fructose corn syrup, actually. So, and if you look, I like, once again, look into nature for answers, is in fruits and vegetables, people think, oh, fructose, that's just fruit sugar. Well, right? We have fructose, glucose, and sucrose, and in regular fruits, there's always a percentage of fructose, glucose, and sucrose in different varying percentages, and they're usually only in the single digits, never in the double digits. I mean, and agave could be as much as 70%, fructose, and that's really, really high. And the other thing is that fructose is basically digested or handled by our liver. So what other things does our liver handle? You know, I mean,
Everything.
yeah, other toxins, alcohol, things that, you know, we regularly can't digest. So let's move to cacao really quick. On the cacao, is raw cacao not heated above 118 degrees? We hope so. I mean, I talked to Doug Graham, and he said basically cacao has to be fermented, and in the fermentation process, it's like making compost. So they just put it in these big piles, and he said it's steaming. So according to Doug, it's not raw, because it's heated above 118 degrees, because he said in order to get that cacao flavor, like that dark chocolate flavor that you're used to, you really need to heat it to get those aromas and it to change, because I've picked my own cacao fruit off the tree, taken them, and then just sun-dried them in the sun, the little beans, and they're really, really, really bitter. They don't taste nearly like the raw cacao you could buy. So the next question is, does raw cacao have life force or potential life force? Has anybody ever tried to sprout cacao beans? I don't think they're going to grow into a tree. So the answer would probably be no. Is it unprocessed or minimally processed? Maybe, we don't know. I mean, if they're whole beans and they just take them out and sun dry them, then I would call that minimally processed.
They do occur in nature.
Right. And so does raw cacao occur in nature? Yes. Is it a whole food and not refined? Well, pretty much. Is it water rich? Not at all. Is it health building?
Tell us about that.
I would say it's not health building. I mean, the reason why people say cacao is good for us is because of the minerals, right? What other health building benefits have you heard about cacao besides the minerals?
Antioxidant transition. Antioxidants.
Oh, antioxidants. Excellent, yeah. So the minerals and the antioxidants. So my answer would be, why not eat, I mean, we all know blueberries have antioxidants, or goji berries. I mean, I think that's a much better antioxidant source than, say, cacao that may, because it is debatable. I mean, we could put up blueberries or, you know, another high antioxidant source, and we easily get all yeses. That would be a much better choice, in my opinion. And on the minerals, there's a lot of foods with minerals. And I would say, you know, if you didn't hear Don Weaver talk at this expo, he gives talks other places, but he talked about basically growing in rock dust to put minerals back in the soil because our soils are demineralized. And I can tell you, I've started to grow my own food with rock dust and compost, and all my food tastes sweeter than any other food that I've tasted, because when the plants have the minerals, it has what it needs, and it's happy, and then I eat the plant for my minerals. And that's how it should be happening. We shouldn't have to go to the rainforest of, you know, South America to, you know, get their cacao and bring it back just for our minerals. I mean, there's better ways to, you know, grow your own food in ocean water. You could grow sprouts in ocean water and things like that for minerals, in my opinion, is a much better source.
What about all those powdered things that they're selling that I've never heard of, like lucuma and shilajit and
Sure, let's put that up.
maca?
Let's put it up.
Before we move on, so what's not so good about it? Or you say, well, there are other things that can give you this, but what's wrong with cacao?
Well, there's theobromide in there, and it's actually classified as a poisonous substance by the medical profession. So you could get, if you really want to specifically know, go back to my table, and I have like 5 more handouts.
Where is it?
Kevin did a great talk about it too.
Yeah. I mean, it burned out, from what he said. It burned out Kevin's adrenals.
Yeah, and
So-
he wasn't processing any of the minerals that he was eating, and he did all that through blood paneling and tracking of the whole process. So he's
Right.
scientifically backed what it was doing.
Right. Yeah. So that's my opinion. We need to move on here because we got a lot more to cover. But let's go back to your question on something like lucuma powder.
Lucuma, shilajit, and what was the other one? Maca. I've never seen those before. So people are selling them, and they're saying they're these wonderful products. And besides being powdered, what are they?
Sure. Well, to my knowledge, like the lucuma and the maca are basically just powdered. Well, lucuma is a fruit, and the other one's a root. So why don't we put that up to our criteria? Is the powdered lucuma powder not heated above 118 degrees?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Does it have a life force, a potential life force?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Is it unprocessed or minimally processed?
Depends on how it's ground.
Depends on how it's ground. We hope so. Does it occur in nature?
Yes.
Yes. Is it a whole food? Well, hopefully they're just grounding up the whole lucuma fruit, but we don't really know. I don't.
Water rich, no.
Is it water rich? No. Is it health building?
Debatable.
Maybe.
Maybe. So I mean, you can see sometimes we don't have clear answers. But maybe if there's, the alternative, I mean, I would like to eat fresh lucuma. So one of these days we're going to go to South America and eat fresh lucuma and know what it's really like. And it has been used actually in ancient societies as a sweetener for a long period of time. I did research that specifically, so I know that on lucuma. And I know you can buy maca seeds and try to grow your own maca. I'm growing my own yacon in Santa Rosa. So I'm going to pretty soon harvest the yacon root, and I'm going to juice it, and I'm going to dehydrate it and see if I get yacon syrup. And guess what? If I don't, then that means they're doing a lot more processing than juicing it and putting it in the dehydrator. And I'm pretty confident it's not going to be the same. So, oil, excellent. Oil, so, I don't know, olive oil. Olive oil. Is olive oil not heated above 118 degrees?
Depends on what it
If it's
is.
cold pressed.
If it's cold pressed, we hope it would not be. But actually, even cold presses can get too hot for my information, so I guess a better question would be, is it stone ground? Because I think stone ground doesn't get that hot. And so that would be maybe, maybe not. We don't know. It depends on who's processing it and if you could trust them. Does olive oil have life force or potential life force?
No.
No. Is it unprocessed or minimally processed?
It's pressed.
It could be pressed. I mean, people may, that may be yes or no. Let's see what I would say it's pretty highly processed because it's just, it's 100% fat from the olive at that point. It's fractionated.
It's refined.
It's refined. So we'll move on. Does an olive oil occur in nature? Is there olive oil trees that you can pick olive oil? No. Is it a whole food? No. Is it water rich? No. No water in there. It's all fat. Is it a health building? Well, it could be.
I think it's
Yes.
omega-3s in it.
No omega-3s in olive
But it's
oil.
monounsaturated, which among fats is fairly good.
So you can see we had some no's, some maybes. In my opinion, olive oil is not necessarily the best food for us. I think a better food, in my opinion, would be sun-dried olives. So years ago, I went down to San Diego and I picked sun-dried olives with David Wolf. And we picked them actually, some of them on the tree, but actually a lot of them in San Diego were on the ground. So they dry in the sun, and then when it dries, it takes out some of the bitterness, actually. So then I'm eating a whole food that's sun-dried, right? And when you eat the olive, actually, you can taste the oil. Because, there's no salt in them because they're sun-dried on the tree, and it's really oily in there. But I'm also getting the fiber, the phytonutrients, and all the other things that are in a real whole food, right? So what I would recommend to everybody in here is that they take their top 3 criteria. Because go running through the whole list might be a little bit cumbersome. And before they're going to buy or purchase a food. So when I ask myself, when I go into the health food store, if I'm going to buy a food, I ask myself 3 of these. And for me, the most important 3 are, is it health building? Because I almost lost my life. I want to eat only things that are health building. And another one that's really important for me, does it have life force or potential life force? And the longer that I've been involved with raw foods, the longer I'm determining that this is actually really important. Life force you may think of as prana or chi or biophotons, and there's really no way that regular medical science could really classify this. If you see a Kirlian photography and you'll see the energy off it, that's what I mean by life force. When I eat things, for example, out of my garden that I grew and I pick and I just literally put in my mouth, because sometimes I'll just go out and graze, or my dinner I go out and pick and then bring inside and eat in 5 minutes without it ever having to go through refrigeration, because that loses things, or go through a trucking process to get to the store and all that stuff. It really makes a difference. So in my years of raw foods, I've always tried to basically better what I'm doing, and the only way I've found to do that lately is to actually grow my own food so I can have the highest quality food because then that means I'll be the healthiest, because that's my goal. So that would be number 2, and number 3 for me. And if you're eating things that are dehydrated, it's just simply taking your water away. That's one of the reasons why cooking, for the most part, unless you're steaming or boiling, is not so good for us, because most things are dehydrated. Yes.
A question, do you juice greens or do you just eat greens?
Both. I eat greens for my salad at dinner time, and then I also juice them, and I also make blended smoothies or blended salads. So the question is, do I ever eat things that aren't all yeses? Well, absolutely. So, if I eat spirulina powder, right? I wouldn't necessarily say that has life force, and I wouldn't necessarily say that it's water rich, because it's not. But I think the health building part for me is much more powerful and overrides those other two, because I also put it in my smoothie with some, bananas and coconuts. So I'm drinking it with water, and I think the health benefits derived from that algae, even if it is dried, is much, is good enough for me to override the other two no's. So everybody's going to have their, what's really important to them. If you want to go for health, or if you, I don't know, maybe one of your criteria would be, it tastes good. I mean, I've had that up here before. Maybe cacao tastes good for you. I'm by no means advocating cacao, but we each need to learn to basically think for ourselves and just kind of think rationally and pragmatically about, if it's raw or not, and if it's really good for us. And, maybe hopefully do a little bit of research at the same time. Yes?
So how would you eat, I guess? I'm from Calgary, Alberta.
Sure.
And our winters are very long, and we import from California mostly. And by the time it comes, we don't have fruit in the fall and winter. We really don't. And it's a duration to start getting the good stuff. How would you eat if you lived up there, not being able to eat a lot of fresh?
The only way I can really answer that, because I haven't been through that exact situation, but I can say I did travel to Iceland for a week, and Iceland's pretty cold, and they don't really grow a lot of stuff. Well, they have some greenhouses that are basically heated by hot water, because they have, hot springs there, mineral springs. And so, I basically, most supermarkets, there I didn't eat that much organic because they really didn't have it, but I still maintained a high fresh fruit and vegetable diet. And so I don't know what exactly they have where you live, but I can tell you that Frederick Pottenod, he has a booth here. He wrote a book specifically, raw foods in the winter, and he lives in Canada. And so he wrote a recipe book that has really helpful recipes using all the ingredients that you should be able to find, for the winter. The other thing I'd recommend, if you can't grow outside, you could probably grow inside. So I'd recommend maybe growing inside. Sprouting is excellent, because you could definitely do that and eat sprouts all winter.
You could grow herbs, cilantro.
I do grow
in the house, parsley.
It's the fruit. You don't understand. You miss the fruit.
How about
It's so unfresh when
hydrating
we get-
dehydrated fruit? Hydrating.
Hydrating.
Dehydrated
Rehydrating.
Rehydrating dried
Yeah,
fruit.
Not
But sprouts are so much more tasty and alive. You could have sunflower, buckwheat.
But they gotta sell. I've traveled all over the world. They have to sell some kind of fresh fruits. Maybe they're not the best fresh fruits, but they gotta sell fresh fruits in the store.
Sure. There's organic
But they're not that good.
markets, but they're not
You know,
good.
'cause-
And they're a waste of money.
Well, you gotta do the best
They
you
have
can.
all kinds of mold on them by the time they reach us. It's hard.
Yeah. No?
Move to California.
I'd love to.
So I got the 5-minute mark. I guess I'll just take questions for the last 5 minutes.
What type of water do you drink?
Sure. So the question is, what kind of water do I drink? And the answer is, so I live in Rohnert Park, so it's city water. So the city water is pretty good, but it's not that good. So I have a whole house water filter going into my house, and then after the water goes into my house, I have a drinking water filter at my kitchen sink. So it's an Aquasana drinking water filter. Basically, it's a KDF and carbon filter. So that takes out pretty much all the bad stuff. So it goes through, my whole house, and then an extra filter just to be safe. And I drink that. And then in addition to that, I have a reverse osmosis. So I have three things coming out of my sink. I have a regular water that's been whole house filtered once. Then I have a drinking water which has been filtered twice, and then a reverse osmosis that's been filtered through my whole house and my reverse osmosis. And I would recommend mostly, once again, I try to look to nature for answers. Most of the time, animals in nature drink out of streams that have minerals in them, naturally occurring. And so I usually choose the filtered water that's been double filtered. Sometimes if I'm making a recipe or something and I want no extra minerals or nothing, I just want water, I'll just use the reverse osmosis. I'll get a pure water so I can know that's all it is. But for the most part, I don't drink the reverse osmosis that much, but I have a choice, and sometimes I'll feel like, I should drink reverse osmosis today. Maybe it'll help me or something.
There's another question I have, and I don't know how to frame it correctly.
Sure.
But the more you do at home, the water is pure, your garden is there, do you find psychologically more comfortable at home and it keeps you there more rather than traveling? Because it seems to me the more information I get, the more comfortable I am with our routine at home and fearful I am of going outside of that environment where nothing's controlled. And so I'm asking you about being in this for a long time, the psychological aspect of it, that's usually not talked about.
So I have 1 minute left. Let me answer your question really fast. So the question was the psychological aspects of being at home all the time and just knowing that I have my garden outside and all my food and all my equipment and my filtered water versus traveling. Well, the one thing I didn't say earlier in the talk is that one of my favorite hobbies after health is traveling. So I actually give a 1 hour talk about traveling and staying raw. And it's really about mental stuff. So, if you look in my suitcase in my car, I have, plastic knives I can carry on. I have plastic cutting boards. I have a plastic colander. I have to travel with my water filter. So I bring essential elements with me out of my house except for the food. And I always look forward to the food I'm growing, and it's something I really look forward to after any trip. But, it's not really that big of an issue for me to, travel because I love it so much and see new places, and I'll find farmers markets to eat out of, because if you're not growing it yourself, the next best thing is a farmer's market, because they grew it and hopefully they picked it, that morning or the day before, and you're going to get the freshest quality food and you didn't have to grow it.
So the longer you do this lifestyle too, the healthier you are and the easier you can deal with moving.
Right, or you could always fast and drink water for days. I'll take one last question, or am I out of time?
Out of time.
Out of time. So any other questions? I'll be at the book signing table actually outside, and after all these years I finally wrote a little booklet that I'll be selling for $5, and it basically talks about all the ingredients that we should be using. Mostly are in here in healthful recipes to build your health and not take from it. And there's over 30 recipes in here, and I'll be out at the table if you want to come over there to see me or talk to me.